Hello and welcome. I'm excited to introduce you tonight to my guest. Richard Leider is back with me. Richard has been on before. He's a best-selling author. Some of his books have topped the charts and he has sold over 1 million copies. He's the author of Repacking Your Bags, The Power of Purpose, and now tonight we're going to talk about The Power of Purpose, the 3rd edition, Whistle While You Work, and a book that evolved out of that. Yep. And the title is Work Reimagined. Richard is an executive coach. Forbes magazine ranked him as one of the top 5 most respected executive coaches in the country. And he's just a wonderful guest. I think you'll love learning and thinking with him. Welcome back.
What a pleasure to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you are welcome. I want to jump right in because we, as you know, are talking about your 2 new books, and so we have to maximize our time here. First, let's talk about The Power of Purpose. This is the first book of yours that I read, I think, way back. Yeah. What year was that written, the first edition?
85,
okay.
1985, and people ask me, why did you need to update this with yet another edition? Well, as I've matured, the purpose message has matured along with me, and so this one has 4 new chapters, including some really important ones.
Yeah, it feels very different.
Yeah.
I was looking at the old book and the new and comparing, and the subtitle, folks, is Find Meaning, Live Longer, Better. Those are pretty positive words, aren't they?
Well, and the last chapter of the book tells it all, Mary, and that is, can science explain purpose? And the answer is unequivocally yes. We now have evidence that having a reason to get up in the morning, which is the way I define purpose, is fundamental, not a luxury. And it's fundamental to health, healing, happiness, and ultimately longevity. So now the neuroscience, the medical science is in and increasingly being studied to show that this is the case.
Do they have studies, Richard, that can give numbers in terms of years of extended life if people have a sense of purpose?
Yeah, that one, the longevity one is complicated because in 1900...
So many variables.
Yeah, in 1900 the average life expectancy in the US was age 46. Now it's in the 80s. Well, there's a lot of factors that contribute to that, not just purpose or not just exercise or there's genetics, there's a whole lot of different pieces to that. But they have numbers, they have real metrics that they can measure 7 to 10 years of longevity, for example, and a huge impact
of extra longevity.
Wow,
yeah. That is a convincing statement.
And imagine a pill that would reduce the effects of Alzheimer's, would reduce macroscopic stroke by 41%, would increase your sleep abilities, and on and on. Imagine a pill like that. What would you pay for that? Most people say, well, I don't know. Well, I said it's free. The neuroscience now says that purpose is that pill. But purpose is a practice. You have to do it. You can't just have a concept in your mind.
And there's a quote book that I thought, I've got to bring this to you and ask you about it. I'm going to just read it so I get it just right.
Yep.
It says, finding your purpose is a misleading concept because it's not something we have to go out and, quote, get, unquote, but rather something we need to turn within and unlock.
Right.
So tell me more about what that means to you.
Well, purpose is a mindset, first and foremost. It's an aim, and it's something that we choose, and it already is in us because, as I write in the book, it has a lot to do with your gifts, your passions, your values, things that you already have, that when you start to organize what you want to do and what you want your life to be about, your aim, if you will. Purpose is not a goal. A lot of people mistake it as a goal. Maybe it's a higher order goal, but it's an aim. It's what is the aim of your life. And purpose is always outside of yourself. It's always contributing in some way to the larger world and the larger community.
You even go as far as saying, I think I understood you right, that if you are having a sense of purpose, you're probably going to be a more giving person, your community is going to benefit, et cetera. I mean, it's just not you that benefits, right?
Right. There's 3 myths about purpose. First is that you have to have a cause. Somehow you have to wake up in the morning and save the planet on some level. No, you have to have a mindset, and that mindset is about making a difference in your world, in your community, in some small way. Second myth is that somehow it'll be revealed to you if you just wait or you just get old enough or something.
Right.
No, you have to live purposefully and do purposeful actions, and then it starts to reveal itself in a language or something that you can use and repeat.
So out of your experience
Right.
comes an aha
An awareness,
kind
that's
of
right.
sense.
Yep. And the third myth is that somehow purpose is a luxury. Only
yes.
for the affluent, only for the well-educated, only for a certain age. No, purpose, as I said earlier, is absolutely now proven to be fundamental. It's as fundamental as I talk about kind of the 3 M's: money, medicine, and meaning. So money is fundamental to our well-being, and medicine, meaning health, is fundamental, but so is meaning. All 3 of those M's are fundamental to our vitality and our longevity.
I really like the basic beginning definitions of what gets you up in the morning.
Yep.
And an interesting side thought related to this that I think is important is your purpose doesn't have to take up your whole being or your whole week, does it?
Not at all.
And I think that is a myth too, that
Right.
you need to devote your whole self to it.
It's kind of like that cause.
Yes, very much
And
like
people say, well, I mean,
Right.
get real, I have to make a living.
right.
But there are purpose moments everywhere in life. Chances for you to make a small dent, a small contribution to whatever is going on in front of you. Nothing is more debilitating than being around someone who's totally self-absorbed.
Right.
The opposite
It's a
of
real
that
turn
is
off,
purpose.
isn't it?
That doesn't mean you have to be other absorbed all the time, but it means you have to be awake to your contribution.
You know, it's sort of sad though, I think a lot of people who are living lives that have purpose don't always recognize that in themselves.
Right.
They might say, well, I'm not doing enough, or I can't do any more than I'm doing, and they don't give themselves credit for making a difference in their neighborhood, in their family,
Right.
at their workplace.
Nothing brings people greater joy and pleasure than being affirmed
Yeah.
for their gifts,
Yeah.
for their contribution,
Yeah.
and so few people get affirmed. And there's really a hunger. One of the things I say in both of these books is that isolation is fatal. Going it alone, being isolated is an incredibly bad idea. But it's not just being isolated in aging or things like that. It's not getting that kind of feedback that we crave, that we hunger for.
If someone listening says, I'm that person, I don't get a lot of feedback, I don't really think I'm doing that much, I want to do more, how can others around them help that person recognize that they are contributing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how.
Or does it have to come from within?
It has to come from within. It's always nice from without as well. But I have a little exercise that I do with people that anybody watching can do. And that is write a default purpose on a Post-it. So let's just say this purpose thing's too big, too hard, I'll get to it sometime. No, start now. On a little Post-it, write this default purpose: grow and give. That's the universal purpose.
G&G.
Yeah, G&G. And put it on your mirror, and in the morning before you, as you're brushing your teeth and getting ready for the day, ask yourself, how am I going to grow and give today? Where am I going to make a difference? Small little difference in someone's life. At the end of the day, when you're getting ready to go to bed, look at that Post-it again and say, how did I grow and give today?
So
And
give
that
yourself credit.
yeah, exactly. That self-affirmation before you go to bed starts to build over time and really fulfills. There's happiness on the outside, there's fulfillment on the inside, and fulfillment comes from yes, I did make a difference there, even though it took 15 seconds.
It wasn't my whole afternoon, it was just a
Exactly.
bit of it, but
Yep.
I can feel good about it.
Yep.
You talked, Richard, about the 4 levels of work experience or expectations.
Yeah.
First, it's a job. I've got a job, at least I've got a job.
Pays the bills, yep.
Yeah, but
Yep.
nothing in it really that
Right.
excites me.
Yep. Hopefully you get that excitement elsewhere,
Right.
or you get that fulfillment elsewhere, but for now, maybe that's the best you can do is a job.
Get your bills paid.
Right.
The second level, it's
Career.
a career.
And career is a series of jobs or something that is a little more fulfilling. There's more growth involved with it, Mary. But at a certain point, often that flattens out for people, and they struggle with burnout or with certain flattening out.
Burnout's very prevalent.
And at midlife, we've been repeating that. We've been doing it for a long time, and there's just a certain sense of boredom. Many people, midlife, bored with their career, even though it pays the bills and it's good. And so career is a good thing, but it can also decline.
Is this where you also in the book talk about inner kill, where you're just kind of going through the paces, right?
Yeah, inner kill, I call it the art. It's kind of a strong word, isn't it? Inner kill.
It is.
Subtitle is The Art of Dying Without Knowing It, or without showing it. It's kind of dying from the inside. It's that boredom, it's that sense of been there, done that, going through the motions.
Become cynical.
Yeah, so then helping people to get curious. Curiosity is really important to aging, really important to health. That's why it's grow and give. Grow is, what are you curious about? You don't have to go to school, you don't have to read, but what are the things you're curious about exploring?
As children are curious.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't they a great model?
Yeah, they are.
You know, they are.
And we need
questioning.
the people we like to be around, I submit. I know you and I do, are people who are curious. Curious about you, but curious about life and the world and things. That fuels purpose. And in many ways, it ignites a sense of purpose, because you start getting curious about things and you want to know more, and then you go deeper. The third level of that job continuum is mission. So there's some people who, they're not necessarily going to get wealthy, but they're certainly going to do something they really care about, that they're passionate about, that comes from the heart, and that they can get up every day and say, this matters, and it matters to me, and it matters to the world. And then the fourth area, the area that I write about, and the Work Reimagined book is all about, is uncovering your calling. And here's the formula.
Yeah, calling is the word that links these 2 books we're talking about tonight,
Exactly.
isn't it?
And calling is, follows this formula. Gifts plus passions plus values equals calling.
A nice
And you got up this morning,
equation.
Are you using your gifts on things you really care about in environments that fit your values, even if you're retired? You don't have to get up and do this for a living. It can be avocationally, it can be in your community, in your religious organization, volunteer work, all of that. And I call it the Napkin Test, because people say they're so busy today, always going somewhere, always, on 24/7, and they'll say, Richard, you're supposedly an expert in this. You got a minute? Can you tell me what I should do with the rest of my life?
And tell me in 2 minutes, right?
And I say, well, pull out this napkin. It's on an airplane or something, and write down this formula. And they'll say, oh, that's brilliant. And I said, well, it's hard work.
G plus P plus E equals V. V for
values.
Oh, value, yes.
That's where you do what you do. So the gifts are your talents, what you do. The passions are what you work on or what you care about. And the values are where you do it. It's the culture, it's the place you do it. And if you get up in the morning and you are using your gifts at least part of the day, it doesn't have to be perfect, on things that you use your gifts, passions, and values, now you're going to live longer. You're going to have that sense of fulfillment that both books talk about.
This is a promise, right?
It's a definite promise. It's been researched for 4 decades by me and many other people around the world. I make it simple for people, like a napkin test. But the research behind it is solid.
I was telling some of my crew before you came down that you take these complex ideas and he does make them simple in his writing in a way that
Yeah.
you don't have to work hard to get it.
Well, I write for readers. I want people to read it, and if they find it useful, to do it, and if not, then don't. But
I want to shift gears now because we want to also talk more about calling, but about Work Reimagined.
Yeah.
Now hold this book up so my cameraman can get a good look at it.
yeah,
You say about calling and talk about it in this book, I think specifically, that pursuing your calling takes courage.
yeah.
Why so? I mean, it seems like it would be something we would sort of be magnetized toward.
Well, it takes courage on a lot of different levels. Number one, for many people, maybe most people, their career, their work, their job chose them. They didn't choose it. They just kind of got into it because of a circumstance. So to get out of what we're doing and to choose takes courage. Choice takes
Okay,
courage.
that's true.
To choose
To
to live
leave
your life,
security.
your vision of your life in your work. Keep in mind, Mary, that people spend on average 60% of their life working. That's their biggest
True,
block
I hadn't
of
thought
time.
of it quite in a
And so if you're
statistical
not
way.
invested in things that really fit that formula, gifts, passions, and values, you're really wasting your most valuable currency, your time. And therefore, I say to people, that's quite an investment, 60%, in order to get about 12% of free time to do what you really love to do. If this was money we were talking about, you'd say this is a bad investment. Well, this is time, which is even more precious currency.
Time is more important than money.
Yeah.
Well, the courage part, I want to stick with that a minute
Yeah.
because I'm guessing a lot of listeners and viewers are saying, well, I get courage because I can't leave my benefits, I can't let my family be in a limbo while I pursue my calling.
Yeah.
And you address this in the book, but tell people
Well,
now
the opening chapter,
how you
the opening chapter
with that.
in the book is the end of work as we know it. That security that you think you have is evaporated for the majority of people. They have to do this kind of thinking, even to keep their current job and to stay employed. They have to keep looking at their gifts, passions, and values and updating that and growing that, because otherwise they're going to be out. Now 41%, staggering statistic, 41% of the American workforce are contingent workers.
meaning
Part-time, contract, coach,
really?
consultants.
41 there?
And it's going up in the
Wow.
next 10 years to 50-some%. That's from the Department of Labor.
Wow.
That means that these people have to do this to continually be able to tell their story to potential buyers or employers or contractors. And so the world is changing. These are life skills for the 21st century. This is not some luxury for people. But I grant you totally that I have a mortgage, I have kids, but it doesn't cost anything to explore.
That's true.
So
That's
stopping
true.
to say what is possible here and doing your homework, that's what we try to do in Work Reimagined, to say, how do I go about this process? How do I go about discerning what it is that I actually can do?
You also talk a lot, and I think this is important too for a lot of people. There may not be a perfect job for everybody.
Right.
That's rare to really have a perfect job.
It
You might have one.
May not.
I might have one.
Well, it may not be perfect, but parts of it, hopefully, are
See,
you're
that's a
in the
key-
zone.
Key thing, isn't it?
And
Parts.
if I had $1 for every parent who's come up to me over the last years, even this year, and said, "Do you do this for kids, for young people, young adults, not children, but young adults?" Because I got a kid who's got a great education, but is clueless about what to do in life and work. And how come they're not getting any help? They've got a great education, and yet they still can't figure it out. Well, these are life skills now. We have to find ways to help them figure it out. Why do you want them to figure it out? I just want them to be happy, and they're miserable right now. Work
It's a
makes
scary
people
time.
miserable.
It's
It
a
is.
scary time for young people
Totally.
who put in all this money and all these,
Yeah.
years into their education.
Right. And what are called the Millennials, they really want purposeful work. They've seen their parents, they've seen what's happened to the economy, they've seen their educations, and they want to be able to use who they are in the world in certain ways. They want to make a good living, but they also want to make a good life. There's balance, and there's also purpose. The millennials are more purpose-driven than any other segment of society.
I had not heard anyone say that, but
Yeah.
that is interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's true?
Well, I think 'cause it's the end of work as we knew it. And
So out of necessity, really,
out of
huh?
necessity, but also out of awareness. The internet era is aware. It's aware about
That's
what's
true.
going on in the world, and they for many reasons want that sense of connection.
I want you to put your psychology hat on for a second.
Yep.
We're taping on July 18th of 2016, and the world is really in turmoil right now.
It is.
There's so many hard things going on. And does this, do you think, make it harder for people to be doing this kind of work because they're kind of overwhelmed by fear and tension in the outside world?
That's a really great question. Purpose is directly connected to hope, and people need hope.
For sure.
Not just Pollyannish hope, but hope based on homework and doing things like they're hopeful that they can actually find something, make a difference. And oftentimes people say, well, that's great, but you can't make a living. And I said, you can. I've got files full of people who are making a living doing what you say this. You just haven't done your homework. You have to get out and explore and open up the lens to see what's possible. And that means doing first your inner work, and then opening doors and exploring in certain ways. And so I think we live in this, we call it the VUCA world. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Doesn't that look like today's newspaper? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. This isn't going to be going away anytime soon. So what I believe sincerely is that these kinds of things we're talking about are life skills. We need to learn how to do this better. And the work world in particular, when I was on last, it was about the book Life Reimagined.
Right, a couple of years ago.
A couple of years. And what I learned over those couple of years was that the biggest pain point in this VUCA world was work. People wanted help, not just with Life Reimagined and Retirement Reimagined, but work. And how do I do this in this new reality?
And this really applies to people of all ages too.
It does.
Even though you may not be in the workforce as you were in your middle years. Say a little, we've just got a minute or two left, but say a little bit about how this pertains to the people over 70.
Yeah. Well, originally I was writing this about, co-authoring this with, about midlife crisis. People at midlife, which is a huge, one of the inflection points where Work Reimagined is. But we found when we were doing seminars that people were bringing their whole family. People of all ages were coming and saying, well, I'm going through it at midlife, but so is my child. By the way, so is my grandchild, and so is my parent. Not quite as many parents, but it's been fascinating that people can't retire the way they could before. If you're going to live 3 decades longer, unless you've done an amazing job financially, you're probably going to be working at something.
Plus,
and you don't want to just do what you've always done.
Purpose.
Right.
We don't want to just go golfing all the time, do we?
Well, for a while it's okay to take a moratorium and do that, but at a certain point you want to be engaged in the world. And that doesn't mean you have to go back to work, but you have to find a way to use your gifts on things you care about in that environment, regardless of whether you're retired and wealthy or not wealthy.
We are going to put your website up, so if you want to pursue learning more about Richard's exciting ideas, a very simple website to remember, www.richardleider.com. Well, this has just been so fun to talk with you. Just in a nutshell, tell us the exciting relationship you've got with AARP, because You were filling me in before we started taping, and this is just bringing you to the world, really.
6 years ago, AARP used to have retirement. Now it's AARP. And they wanted to find ways to be relevant to the up-and-coming generations that were not aging in the same way that they weren't denying aging. They weren't anti-aging. They just said, I'm not going to retire, or if I do, it's not going to be like that. So I was brought in to help create something called Life Reimagined. And Work Reimagined, Life Reimagined, Purpose is the center of that digital platform and a live platform. So I get the privilege of helping to shape the new aging conversation in America.
That's a huge thing. It's a huge honor. It's a perfect fit for you and your talents.
It is. And I'm my own laboratory. I'm aging.
And you share that as you go, don't you?
We always say everybody's an experiment of one. So I'm an experiment of one, so are you, so is everybody else. We're not trying to get anybody to be anything other than their most authentic, healthy self.
I love your ideas, as you know. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Richard, for sharing your great wisdom. And we'll get you back for show number 7 or 8 in a year or two, okay?
I hope so. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you next week. Until then, have a good week.